Hello readers, I'm Amy, and it looks like I'm gonna have a guest in today's video. Today's video has nothing to do with dragons, but he's just kind of crawling around the floor because he is not used to this costume, which is why I have him in it, because I want him to kind of get used to it. But I got him a dragon costume. I've always wanted to turn our other cat, Dimitri, into a bumblebee, and I found a bumblebee costume, so it only seemed fair that I get something for Amadeus as well. But yeah, that's not what this video is about. Are you gonna sit there, or are you gonna... I don't know what you want from... I know what you want, but... Okay, there we go. Let's get into it. I swear I'm not gonna leave him in that all day, I promise. So anyways, today's video, we are going to do a standalone review, or I guess I'm going to do a standalone review, not we. And I'm going to talk about Kindred by Octavia Butler. This is one, it's been on my list for a little bit. I've been wanting to try Octavia Butler. I did try Fledgling, which I enjoyed. I've had some friends tell me that Kindred should be my next one by her, and it was good, and it was heart-wrenching, and it was a ride. So, how do I want to start talking about this? Went ahead and placed it back here so I don't have to hold it the whole time. I guess I will start off this review by saying I'm going to go ahead and have spoilers. Normally I have like a spoiler section, or I try not to give too many spoilers for a book, but for the sake of my conversation on this particular book, I feel like I should have spoilers in order to better explain my feelings. So if you don't want to be spoiled at all for Kindred, you should probably watch one of my other videos or go bake something, or do whatever you do with your day, really. And this is not going to be the video for you. So Kindred is about this woman. I pronounce it Dana. It could be Donna, but I'm guessing it's Dana. It's D-A-N-A. Dana and her husband Kevin, they are living together. They're moving into a new house, and suddenly Dana gets a little bit of vertigo and she disappears completely. Or it appears that she has disappeared because Kevin cannot find her anywhere for a couple of seconds. And by disappeared, I mean like she actually vanishes in front of his eyes. And turns out whenever she vanished, she went into 1800s, I want to say Maine? With Dana being a woman of color, this is obviously not a good thing. There is a lot of slavery in the United States at this time. There's the kind of battle of South versus North. I feel like Maine is not right, but for the sake of the fact that it's been a couple days since I finished it and I can't quite remember, I'm gonna say Maine. I do remember that she is originally from California, and at the point in which this book takes place, California isn't a part of the United States yet. Anyways, she comes across this boy, Rufus, who needs her help. He's drowning in the river. She saves him, and then her life is threatened whenever his father comes along and sees this black woman just standing there with his son, who looks like he's almost drowned. And just as he is about to shoot, she is transported back to Kevin and back to the modern day. And the modern day at this point is in the 70s. This book takes place in it takes place in the 1800s, but she's from the 1970s. And for Kevin, she's only been gone for a matter of seconds, but for her, she's been gone for several minutes at this point. And she's talking to him about everything that happened, and she's freaked out and she doesn't know what she's going to do. And it's shortly after that she once again gets vertigo and is transported back. This time, same boy, his curtains have caught fire, and she's with him, I think, for several hours. And when she gets back to Kevin, has only been gone for a couple of minutes at this point. But while they're in the 1970s, she decides to dive into research. They're looking up slavery and different laws and different histories, and she's looking up her personal history and finds that Rufus is some great-great-grandfather of some type. And she looks at that family line, she sees who is supposed to be the mother to the child that they eventually have that will continue the family line. And when she's once again transported back for a significantly longer period of time, Kevin actually ends up going with her. He is caught up with her. He like goes to try and stop her from transporting or grab her hand or something, and ends up being transported with her. And this leads us to a lot of other things that end up happening in the 1800s. But what I really want to talk about, I'm sorry, Amadeus. Sorry. Serious discussion. I'm here for a serious discussion. What I really want to talk about with this review, besides the fact that I enjoyed it, it was good writing, it was good character building, I was enthralled the whole way through, wondering what would happen. The big thing that I want to discuss here is race and how it's talked about, and history and how that is talked about as well. So not that I haven't learned about slavery, because even in Montana, we're educated on slavery. So I got that much education growing up. But if you can hear little claw marks on the floor, he's trying to crawl along in his dragon costume because he doesn't want to stand up. Poor cat. He's working his way down the hallway like that. I guess really in this review it's gonna be a good thing to have something to lighten the mood. Anyways, back on track. I can't see the cat anymore, so hopefully I can't laugh at him anymore. The way race is talked about in this book is so different, and the way slavery is talked about is so different from anything else that I've read before, in a very visceral, heart-wrenching way. So again, not that it hasn't been heart-wrenching. Like, I've learned about slavery, I know it was awful, but I think it's the fact that Octavia Butler puts us into the mind and body of this woman in the 1970s, like someone that we can be familiar with, someone that reminds us of ourselves or our friends, someone that we can relate to, and then transports her back into the 1800s where her life would have been completely different because she is a woman of color. And then we're still in her body and in her mind as she deals with slavery and being a slave herself and being mistreated, and how she's trying to convince this little boy Rufus to hopefully, like, she's trying to teach him to hopefully become a good person eventually. She's trying to teach him, like, don't call me the N-word. Like, this is how you should talk about me. This is how you should talk to me. This is how you should talk to your slaves. Like, she's trying to teach him. But because he does live in the 1800s, he existed in the 1800s, that's where he's growing up. That's where he's learning things. And it also becomes this interesting discussion of nature versus nurture. So, like, he is growing up in the South in the times of slavery, and yes, this woman comes to save him from time to time and becomes an important person in his life, but the way she becomes an important person is more of an object that he owns rather than a friend who helps him out from time to time. And that object that he owns is because of the upbringing that he's had. And so it's really interesting to see that psychological side of it, but still we're getting caught up, and reading as many books as I have, or watching movies, or just, maybe it's just the fact that I'm soft-hearted, I keep thinking throughout this whole book, and this is where we hit some major spoilers, I keep thinking throughout this whole book, maybe she can do it. Maybe, even if Rufus isn't a great person, even if he continues to have slaves, like, maybe he'll do something truly good. Maybe he won't turn out to be such a shitty person. And throughout this book, my hopes keep getting dashed. And there's another part of me that's thinking the reason that I have hopes is probably because I am a white person who is reading this book about slavery. Like, I keep hoping it's gonna turn out better for her because I really like Dana. She's this really cool character. I want her life to turn out well. I want her to be successful with Rufus, but he keeps doing shitty things. Content warning for abuse, content warning for sexual assault and attempted sexual assault, and content warning for murder. Like, he's not a good person, and I keep hoping that she can turn him into a good person. But I also have to remember he is a white man in the South in the 1800s. Like, there was only really so much she could do, and she's only spending a couple of minutes to a couple of months, maybe a year, being in his life before she's gone for years and years and years back to her own time. And it just... ultimately, this book gave me some perspective that I never thought I would have. And again, I take slavery seriously as a topic, and I know it was awful, but being in the mind of a character that you can really relate to, that is from your own time, and then watching her go back in time and watching her deal with this shit, it's a lesson that I could never have gotten from a history book. It's a lesson that I could never have gotten from a movie. It's like, usually when we think of learning things from books, I think a lot of us imagine nonfiction, but this fiction book has taught me and shown me probably more than I will ever learn in one go from any other book. And when I say learn, I mean like emotionally learn. Again, I knew this stuff was bad. I know this stuff was bad, but emotionally it kind of forced me to put myself in her place, and that sucked. And for that reason, I love this book. This is very much one of the most important books I've ever read in my life. Will probably be one of the most important books that I ever read in my life. And I think everyone, particularly, not everyone, white people should read this book, should get some perspective, should put themselves in her shoes and get that little bit of emotion, of sympathy, of experience from this book. Just, I don't know how else to say it. This was an incredibly important book to me. I will recommend it to everyone that I come across now. I can't wait to talk about it with my friends. I can't wait to use this book as a piece of education, because yes, it's not Black people's place or anyone's place to have to teach others about their lives. But Octavia Butler did take this moment to try and teach people. And she made this book so that I can pass it on to other people in the hopes that they will learn something. So that's going to be it from me. I should probably go get my other cat really quick to lighten up the end of this video. Here we go. We have my bumblebee baby. Isn't he adorable? Isn't he just the best? Aren't you just the best? And now he wants to run away. Fly away, my little bumblebee baby. Or just hang out on the floor. I really need to take these costumes off of them. Hopefully you got something out of this video. Hopefully you can go forward and have conversations with your friends. Please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media. I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.